Where's our crime? Why? You can get all the film and the footage. All the carnage in Los Angeles, but you can show me no footage of any damage in our lives. No any surgical fight. Now, 1 year later, it comes out that these so-called surgical fights will make sense.
August 2nd, 1990. Saddam Hussein's forces crashed through the defenses of oil-rich Kuwait. In fear of an Iraqi invasion into Saudi Arabia, the United States and her coalition allies poured into the Arabian Peninsula to form a deterrent that would be known as Desert Shield. The result was a series of diplomatic talks, negotiations and counter-negotiations that rapidly declined into a no-hope situation. On August the 17th, 1991, Desert Shield became Desert Storm. The conflict was witnessed by millions through the eye of CNN and the BBC, showing propaganda of the systematic eradication of Saddam's forces by a coalition far superior in technological, political, and economic power. However, what was little known was that from the outset the war was engineered, controlled, and manipulated by an elite group. A group which had created the illusion of a man with power, at the head of a million-strong army, on the verge of going nuclear. A man who had gained control over 1/5 of the world's oil overnight. However, in reality, he was merely a pawn, in amongst many pawns, just a puppet in a grand master plan, with the Gulf War as a well-orchestrated stepping stone. The orchestrators of the war were by no means strangers to controlling major world events. In fact, they have done so for centuries. From the shadows, they have engineered every major war, revolution, and recession. They control everything you read, everything you hear, and everything you see. They have managed to indoctrinate an entire populace to their way of thinking, and have infiltrated key positions in places of authority. And it is from the shadows that they have created a new political order, a new economic order, and more sinister, a new religious order. Their ultimate aim is total global domination, and they will stop at nothing to reach their goal. The goal that was outlined in a speech given by former President of the United States, George Bush.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order.
However, the origins of this global plan were not created in the offices of the White House. In reality, their roots lay in another war. This time, the year is 1095, and the place, Clermont, France.
En el nombre del Padre, del Hijo y del Espíritu Santo.
11th century Europe was ruled by the Church, which held a firm grip on the hearts and minds of the people. This power enabled Pope Urban II to wage war on the Muslim Caliphate and crusade in what he called a War of the Cross to recapture the land of Jerusalem. It had been under Muslim rule since the year 637, but in 1099 this rule was brought to a bloody and sudden end. In the name of the cross, women were raped and murdered. Children were put to the sword, and it is said that blood ran in the streets knee-high to the horses. Out of this land of bloodshed and terror, a group of men arose. Men that would stop at nothing to get what they wanted, no matter what the cost. 20 years after Jerusalem was taken, the Dome of the Rock was seized by a group of warrior monks calling themselves the Knights of the Temple of Solomon, or more simply, the Knights Templars. In Jerusalem, the Templars began to deviate further and further away from the practices of Christianity. They learnt the secret arts of the Kabbalah, an ancient form of Jewish magic, along with its dark rites and rituals. The Jews had learnt the arts from the pagans of ancient Egypt during the times of enslavement to the Pharaoh, and developed them into Babylon at the time of Nebuchadnezzar. In 1307, King Philippe of France arrested them for charges of denial of Christ, homosexuality, and idol worship, as well as magic. In 1314, Pope Clement V declared all Templars as heretics to Christianity, ordering all their properties to be seized. Their leader, Jacques de Molay, was captured and burnt to the stake. The Templars were cornered, and just when it seemed they were finished forever, a glimmer of hope arose from a seemingly certain end. They were to find a safe haven as well as an ally. But not in France. In fact, in a country in a desperate struggle for independence against the English, the country of Scotland. For some, Scotland's hope of independence had died with the death of William Wallace. However, to the King of Scotland, Robert the Bruce, the arrival of the Templars gave him a new secret weapon. Their experience, gained over 200 years of fighting the mighty armies of Islam, had made them expert in combat and warfare, and more than a match for any army brought before them. In 1314, the Templars, allied with Robert the Bruce and his army, took to the fields of Bannockburn in the long-awaited showdown with the English. Robert the Bruce's foresight paid off. The 25,000-strong English army suffered a humiliating defeat at the hands of only 6,500 men. The dream of an independent Scotland had finally been achieved. The Templars had brought themselves back from the brink of destruction, and never again would they allow themselves to be destroyed. This time they would control the country by controlling its kings, and in order to preserve their secret order, the Templars would have to die, or more precisely, the name would have to die. The Templars, who had escaped Europe, were finally laid to rest in Roslin Chapel, Scotland, which stands to this day as sign of their presence in Britain. Their descendants became the true power of Scotland. In 1603, the death of Queen Elizabeth I left England without an heir to the throne. By virtue of descent, King James V of Scotland became King of England. In doing so, Scotland and England joined to form a new kingdom, and the power that the Templars held over Scotland spread to give them a firm grip on the whole of Great Britain. For over 100 years, the Templars concealed their activities, fading into the background until they were little known and little remembered. However, they did not cease to keep a firm grip on Britain. All the time they were planning, regrouping, and infiltrating positions of power in all corners of the kingdom. In 1717, the Templars made their reappearance in Europe. They had grown in both number and strength, and were now ready to coin a new identity, free from their reputation of the past, and given credibility by none other than the monarchy and aristocracy of England. And the name they chose for themselves was a name that would be known by many, but understood by a few. This new name, the Freemasons. The new identity and the grandeur of its members afforded the Masons with respect and dignity. The first royal member of the Freemasons was Frederick, Prince of Wales. The latest members include Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, and consort to the current Queen of England, Elizabeth II, who herself is a grand patron to the Masons. However, behind closed doors, the Freemasons were free to indulge in the secret rites and rituals handed down to them by their ancestors, and these became the basis of their levels of membership, called degrees. The Freemasons were not content with power in Britain alone. Their ambitions were far greater. In the years to come, the world would witness Europe and America being plagued by wars and revolutions, each more devastating than the other. However, these would not be as commonly believed, the spontaneous effects of a downtrodden people, but in fact schemes created by the exclusive few, driven by hunger for absolute power. All this would take place from the very country from which they had fled centuries earlier, and would become the base for their global domination.
put a name to the conspiracy that's come down to us through the ages, that some call the Illuminati, some other people call it other things. But I think if you boil it down to its purest, simplest form, you would identify it essentially as Freemasonry. Now that might surprise some of you, but understand that Masonry has been around a long, long time. It may not have always been called Freemasonry, but Masons itself brag about the fact that their first Mason was Tubal-Cain. Now Tubal-Cain, if you know your Bible, was the seventh man from Adam by way of Cain, and he was the guy that invented metalworking. And he is supposedly the first Mason. Now that's pretty far back to start a conspiracy. Then of course you have the flood. After the flood, the Masons say that the first Mason was Nimrod. Now of course we all know who Nimrod was. He's the guy that helped build the Tower of Babel. That's pretty good Masonry. He was the person who basically had the idea for a one world government. He wanted to start a United Nations. He had all these great ideas, you know, one world government, all this kind of stuff, new world order. And God had other ideas. And God came down and he cast confusion and changed the languages of the people. So they went and scattered abroad on the earth. That basically tells us what God thinks about the United Nations. This caused the conspiracy to go underground. And for centuries it existed in various forms. And if you look in the books, the literature of Masonry, you will find that Masonry says it is the direct linear descendant from the ancient mystery religions, from the ancient fertility cults. Now what does that mean? That sounds sort of exciting and mysterious and exotic.
القارة الأمريكية يعني اكتشفت عند وصول كولومبوس إليها سنة 1492 وظلت يعني سنوات طويلة غير يعني مستعمرة من الأوروبيين. والحقيقة أن يعني الفضل في استيطان القارة الأمريكية يعود ليس إلى الحكومات الأوروبية. يعني فكرة استيطان القارة الأمريكية البكر فكرة نبتت في ذهن الحركات السرية، وهي التي تتولى تطبيقها في الفعل. وكانت فلسفة طبعا الماسونية والحركات السرية التي هي جسم كبير متشعب في أوروبا وفي تاريخ الغرب يعني وفي حالة صراع مستديم مع سلطاته ومع القوى العقائدية والتاريخية والملكية فيه. كانت فكرة هذه الحركات أن القارة الأمريكية أرض بكر وخالية من العوائق، وليس فيها سلطات وليس لها تاريخ وليس فيها عقائد وليس هناك حواجز تحول بين من يسيطر عليها وبين أن يشكل مجتمعا جديدا بأفكاره هو وبأهدافه هو ولغاياته هو، وأن يسير هذا المجتمع أو هذا العالم الذي سوف يتكون إلى حيث يريد. فيعني يختصر ذلك عبارة يعني تشير في الأدبيات الماسونية هي أنهم فطنوا إلى أن القارة الأمريكية هي التي ستحسم مصير العالم. من يسيطر على هذه الأرض البكر ويتمكن من إقامة عالم فيها بقواعده وقانونه ولغاياته هو الذي سيتمكن مع الوقت من السير بالعالم إلى ما يريد. فطبعا لا نريد الاستطراد في كلام نظري، لكن نقول تاريخيا ان اول عملية استيطان للقارة الامريكية كانت سنة 1587. هذه المحاولة رائدة والتي هي اول عملية استيطان تاريخية للقارة الامريكية. الذي قام بها وهو السير والتر ريد، كان احد كبار اعضاء حركة الروزيكريشن، وهذه الحركة هي توأم الماسونية ولكنها اكثر منها انغلاقا واكثر سرية وهكذا.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order.
Satan does have plans for a one-world government, and you have to control the money.
Illuminized Masonic symbolism is all over America. On the back of the dollar bill on the left-hand side above the pyramid it says Annuit Coeptus, which means our enterprise is now a success, or a crowned success. So what enterprise does it mean? Well, Novus Ordo Seclorum near the bottom, Novus meaning new, Ordo is order, Seclorum is where we get our word secular, meaning the world. So it means new order of the world, simply new world order. So what it's saying is the New World Order is now a crowned success. This was put on the dollar bill in 1934. 1934 is when the Federal Reserve took total control of the United States monetary system. The Fed is essentially controlled by two Illuminati bloodlines, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. President Franklin D. Roosevelt, a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason, placed the seal on the dollar bill. Roosevelt was also in the Order of the Nobles of the Mystic Shrine, known for its satanic rituals. The pyramid has 13 steps. In fact, the number 13 is on the bill everywhere. 13 leaves on the olive branch, 13 berries, 13 stripes on the shield, 13 arrows, 13 stars, 13 letters on E pluribus unum, and 13 letters in Annuit Coeptus. Now some people believe 13 is on the bill due to the 13 colonies, but dig a little bit deeper and you'll find the real answer. 13 also represents the 13 top Illuminati families that he traced back to the late 18th century and the early 19th century. He is credible, and that's why he was framed by the government and thrown in a cage. 1776 is in Roman numerals near the bottom. Some think it's because of the founding of the country. Another case of subliminal, indirect, reverse psychological propaganda. 1776 is when the Illuminati was formed. The New World Order. Another striking fact is that the eagle has 32 feathers on the right wing, the number of ordinary degrees of the Scottish Rite. There's 33 feathers on the left wing, representing the 33rd degree. The tail has 9 feathers, which represents the 9th degree of the York Rite. The eagle itself is a prominent icon in Masonry, extensively used in the Scottish Rite.
Many of the United States presidents have blood relations with each other. The Bush lineage has blood ties to a great number of former presidents. George Washington, Millard Fillmore, Franklin Pierce, Abraham Lincoln, Ulysses Grant, Rutherford Hayes, James Garfield, Grover Cleveland, Teddy Roosevelt, William Taft, Calvin Coolidge, Herbert Hoover, Franklin Roosevelt, Richard Nixon, and Gerald Ford. Barion points out in his work that Bush is closely related to every European monarch on and off the throne, and has kinship with every member of Britain's royal family. Bush's family tree can be documented as far back as the early 15th century. He has a direct descent from Henry III and from Henry VIII's sister Mary Tudor. He is also descended from Charles II of England. And we also find that George W. Bush is a direct descendant of Godfrey de Bouillon. Godfrey was the first king of Jerusalem after he recaptured it from the Saracens, which was the name for the Islamic faith during the Middle Ages. It is interesting to note that the current occupation of the United States in the Middle East was re-established by the same family, George Bush Sr. in 1991, and again by George Bush Jr. in 2003. George Bush Jr. is then found to be a cousin to both opposing candidates of his 2 terms in office, Al Gore and John Kerry. Democratic President Barack Obama also has blood ties with George W. Bush, as well as Gerald Ford, Lyndon Johnson, Harry Truman, James Madison, and the British Prime Minister Sir Winston Churchill. On the opposing side of the 2008 presidential ballot, John McCain is descended from Robert the Bruce, King William I of Scotland, and also Godfrey the Bullion.
In either of those first two books, though, who knew you and Dick Cheney cousins?
You know, listen, I don't think I'm going to family reunion. I don't know how I'll be greeted.
We all know his father, but what about his cousins? A heartbeat away from the presidency is actually a blood relation. He's President Bush's 9th cousin once removed. Cheney's cousin Barack Obama is also Bush's 11th cousin. President Lincoln was President Bush's 7th cousin 5 times removed. And Bush shared more than just a ballot with John Kerry. That's right, they're 9th cousins twice removed. Trace the family tree far enough, and you get Madonna, Celine Dion, and Tom Hanks.
Christine, you've heard the adage politics makes strange bedfellows. Apparently politics also makes for strange relations. Thanks to the New England Historic Genealogical Society, we now know the presidential candidates are related to a host of famous and historic figures.
In this primary campaign.
I opposed this war in 2002.
But do you know their relatives? Obama is distantly related to 6 presidents: George W. and George H.W. Bush, Gerald Ford, Lyndon Johnson, Harry S. Truman, and James Madison. Obama's family tree also includes Sir Winston Churchill and Civil War General Robert E. Lee.
Thank you all. Thank you.
She's also related to beatnik author Jack Kerouac and the wife of Prince Charles of England. John McCain's ancestry was more difficult to trace, but it's known he's the 6th cousin of First Lady Laura Bush.
Plato's Republic in the 1500s was popular work. He said, if we could have a group of wise men who were well paid to rule over the people, then there would be no corruption. And so they had to go into a secret society.
It's estimated close to 5 million men are involved in Freemasonry here in North America.
It is based on the worship of the male regenerative power.
They were highly skilled men, and they wanted to keep the secrets of their skills to themselves.
They are then required to take a blood oath not to reveal the secrets of Masonry, or they will lose their life.
And I was warned that should I reveal any of the secrets of Freemasonry, to know what to expect.
I went in there with all good intentions, thinking I was entering a fraternity. He does not know at all what he is being initiated into. It's not even mentioned.
And they get into it naively, not realizing that it is a religious organization designed for very specific spiritual purposes.
I thought it was a Christian organization.
Their own leaders have consciously lied and deceived to them because they do not want them to know the true teachings of Masonry.
It is based on Egyptian paganism.
They are in a non-Christian, pagan, idolatrous cult.
Freemasonry goes so far as to actually call Lucifer God.
And no Christian has any part in it.
Now, the elite of the world, such as Bilderbergers, high-level Masons, CFR attendees, and Trilateral Commission attendees, all meet up with each other once a year at a place called the Bohemian Grove. The Grove is a 2,700-acre secluded area in the woods of Monterey, California. The fact is, there is irrefutable evidence that satanic ritual goes on inside the Bohemian Grove. Here is a photo of Masonic coffin ritual being performed in front of a shrine of the devil. Now, a documentary filmmaker and radio talk show host from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones, snuck into the Bohemian Grove in the year 2000 and filmed this satanic ritual, known as the cremation of care. Notice the 50-foot stone idol. Notice the red, black, and white robes. Notice the fire and the satanic sacrifice. Now, there's a debate on what the idol represents. One camp says it's Moloch, the god of child sacrifice in the Old Testament, due to the nature of the ritual and the sacrifice near the belly of the idol. But in my research I found that it is not actually Moloch. The owl is a symbol of Minerva. You see, Dionysus of ancient Greece is interchangeable with Apollo, and Apollo's counterpart is Athena and Minerva, whose symbol is the owl. Similarly, child sacrifice was also involved in this cult. The owl became an important Illuminati symbol in 1776 and was adapted to the name of the Illuminati degree known as Minervals. In A. Barrow's book, Memoirs Illustrating the History of Jacobinism, published in 1798, page 582, he writes, quote, Vicept had adopted the bird of the night as his emblem, unquote. The owl represents wisdom, so what the elite are doing here is sacrificing something to Minerva, the owl of wisdom, and at the same time getting rid of their conscience and their care. Genesis 2:9 tells us that the tree of knowledge, to which the deceitful serpent falsely attributed the power of imparting the superior kind of knowledge beyond that which God was pleased to give. So the elite want the knowledge that God is not willing to give them, and they are willing to do satanic sacrifice to the false god of wisdom, the owl Minerva, who is in turn the serpent or the devil who offers knowledge. What kind of knowledge could they want? Maybe they want to know how to complete the New World Order Vicept started. Either way, Moloch or Minerva worship is satanic. They both have child sacrifice. They're wearing black, red, and white cloaks and practicing idol worship. This Minerva is Satan in disguise. The owl at the Grove is further proof that the Illuminati lives on, since Vicept adopted the symbol of the owl from ancient Greece.
Listen, I am a happy member of the Bohemian Grove. I like the folks who come there, and it's really inappropriate for me to talk about the group beyond that. Thank you.
Have you been there for the ceremony with the cremation of care?
Frankly, I don't think that's something I need to talk to you about. This is what's called ambush journalism, and I disrespect you for that as well. So thank you and goodbye.
The ritual?
It's none of your damn business.
Many people who attend the Bohemian Grove are on the news every day, leading double lives. Some of these people include George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush.
What do you want me to talk about? The Bohemian Club. As you say, the Bohemian Club? I've never been to the Bohemian Club, but you ought to go. It'd be good for you. Get some fresh air.
Here's a New Statesman news report that tells us that Bill Clinton has gone to the Bohemian Grove. Bill Clinton is a lying piece of garbage.
طبعا انا يعني اوشك يعني اسمع احد من المشاهدين يقول هؤلاء القوم يهرطقون، يعني يقول هؤلاء القوم يضحكون علينا، يعني فنريد ان نرى الصور اللي بعدها حتى يعني
طقس الحرق في الغابة البوهيمية
نزيل شكه، يعني نزيل شك المشاهد. فلو نرى الصور اللي بعدها. احنا عندنا في الولايات المتحدة الامريكية، خلينا ادع هذه الصورة فترة يعني على الشاشة. في الولايات المتحدة الامريكية يوجد شيء اسمه الغابة البوهيمية او البوهيميان جروف في شمال كاليفورنيا. هذه الغابة يلتقي فيها نخبة الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية سنويا في موعد محدد لمدة أسبوعين، يقيمون داخل هذه الغابة إقامة كاملة داخل المعسكرات، وكل معسكر مخصص لقطاع من النخبة. فهناك معسكر لرؤساء الولايات المتحدة الحالي والسابقين ومعسكر والسياسيين، ومعسكر لرجال مسؤولين وزارة الدفاع، ومعسكر لرجال الجامعات والأساتذة ورؤساء الجامعات، ومعسكر لأقطاب المال والبنوك والصناعة، ومعسكر للماليين والإعلاميين. المهم ان هذا التجمع سري، المفروض انه لا احد يطلع على ما يدور، وممنوع على الصحافه ان تدخل وان يعني تطلع عليه، وهو يعقد منذ اكثر من 100 سنه، يعني هذا التجمع له اكثر من 100 سنه. ففي هذا التجمع يعني يقيمون عروض مسرحيه واستعراضات وهكذا، والطقس الرئيسي في هذا المعسكر هو الذي نراه امامنا الان.
هذه الصوره التي التقطت سرا.
هذه صوره التقطها صحفي امريكي كاثوليكي اسمه أليكس جونز، تمكن من اختراق الغابه لانها شاسعه المساحه 2000 فدان وهكذا، وممنوع على المصورين الدخول يعني. فالذي لو شرع المشاهد هذه الصورة، يعني أنا أعتقد لو سألته ماذا ترى، أول ما سيرد على ذهني أن هذه مسرحية إغريقية. فأنت ترى ناس بملابس احتفالية، وترى يعني مشهد مسرحي. الحقيقة الذي نرى أمامنا هنا هو مسرح حجري مقام على شاطئ البحيرة داخل هذه الغابة البوهيمية، والواقفون هنا ليسوا ممثلين، هؤلاء نخبة الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية، يلبسون أزياء احتفالية بهذا الشكل، وفي هذا الطقس يرسو قارب على شاطئ هذا المسرح الحجري من البحيرة الصناعية، فيلتقطون الواقفون من نخبة الولايات المتحدة، وهو تمثال لطفل صغير، ويقومون بحرقه تحت أقدام البومة ليليث. هذا التمثال الذي يراه المشاهد هو البومة ليليث التي نتكلم عنها في الدولار، وهذا تمثال ارتفاعه حوالي 12 مترا، يعني الذي يحرقون عنده هذا.
طبعا هذا
تقربا للبومة.
الصحفي الكاثوليكي الذي استطاع ان يخترق الغابة ويصور فيديويا ايضا، يعني
صور الطقس الرئيسي بالفيديو. نعم.
الاشخاص الموجودون داخل الغابة هم نخبة صفوة المجتمع الامريكي
والاقتصاد والاعلام وهكذا، اللي هم النخبة. فنقول للمشاهد ما هي هذه البومة. نرى الصورة، يعني اولا هو يوجد في الدولار في الوجه الامامي من اعلى الى اليمين. هذا يرى صورة مكبرة للدولار، ويركز فيها خط على شيء معين. حول رقم 1 يوجد شكل زخرفي، هذا الشكل الزخرفي مكبر بجوار الصورة هكذا، يرى المشاهد شيء يشبه وجه البومة.
نعم.
سنقول له ما هي هذه البومة. هذه البومة هي ليليث. ما هي ليليث؟
نعم.
ليليث هذه في سفر زهار، هناك سفر في التلمود اسمه زهار أو سفر الإشراق أو الضياء، يقول أن هناك زوجة سابقة لآدم اسمها ليليث قبل حواء.
مسخت إله.
نعم. خلقها الإله يعني خلقا مستقلا من التراب والماء، وليس من ضلع آدم كحواء.
نعم.
فلما خلقها أمرها بطاعة آدم، فأبت أن تطيع آدم ونشزت عليه، وقالت إنها خلقت مثله مستقلة، فليس له أن يأمرها ولا أن ينهاها، ففرت من الإله فمسخها إلى بومة.
نعم.
وفي الحركات السرية والماسونية هي رمز للتمرد على السلطات وعلى القيود وعلى التقاليد وعلى رجال الأديان وعلى العقائد وهكذا.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
And during the initiation rites, you could hear strange cries and whispers coming from the Skull and Bones tomb.
Despite a lifetime of attempts to get inside, the best Rosenbaum could do was hide out on the ledge of a nearby building a few years ago to videotape a nocturnal initiation ceremony in the tomb's courtyard.
The initiates are told that they are superior beings and are part of a privileged elite who use war, terror, and famine to control Earth's human population.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America?
Also in the street plan of Washington, you find pentagrams. So here we have two pentagrams in the street plan of Washington. The top one points into the Capitol building, and the one at the bottom points into the White House. This is a political building, so we're told. In fact, it's a temple to a secret society, built by the Freemasons to a specific design, Congress, the Congress building. Where did it get its name from? Capitol Hill, from a sacred place of the Roman Brotherhood going way back called Capitoline Hill. And when Madeleine Albright, high priestess of this brotherhood, became Secretary of State, and she went across on her first overseas visit to Europe, she actually went to Rome and made an official visit, what for her would have been a pilgrimage to Capitoline Hill in Rome, and that's where we get Capitol Hill from. This is George Washington. In the last century, they decided they didn't have a decent statue of George, so instead of getting an American to produce one, they ordered it from Italy, from Florence. And when it arrived on the dockside, people were staggered, because here was George, the first president of the United States, depicted naked from the waist up with this cloth over his Bill Clinton's, and then pointing up one arm, pointing down the other. What's going on? Unless you realize where these people are coming from, it's inexplicable. Well, if you just hold that in your mind, arm up, arm down, naked from the waist up, and then Bill Clinton's covered in a piece of cloth, well, this is where it's coming from. This is the ancient depiction of the compilation of the negative force symbol that the Templars worshipped, or the high-level Templars worshipped anyway, called Baphomet. And this is why that they depicted George Washington in that way.
The truth is waiting to be uncovered. They've been corrupting our minds, decaying our bodies, entrapping our souls, leaving us to rot on this planet, each cycle becoming more meaningless than the last. We wander like blind sheep, searching for worth, for wealth, for happiness.
They are leading us to our doom.
Our souls have fallen victim to what humanity has become. Our hearts have darkened, our sight obstructed.
Like a fish in an aquarium, there is no escape. Our souls remain forever trapped in this prison of illusions.
Distracted by anything and everything, from politics to the media to religion.
Their eyes forever watching,
ruling,
controlling.
The powerful elite forces of this earth lie behind the scenes.
And knowledge is our only power.
The time has come for us to take that power back.
Emancipate our minds and open our eyes.
We are the illusion.
The Prophet Muhammad said that a time would come when the whole world would gather around to plan the destruction of the Muslims, as if they were gathered around a table to take part in a meal. Today the nations of the world are doing just that, around the circular tables of the United Nations General Assembly Hall.
That when we're dealing with the subject of the Antichrist, there is a lot of symbolism involved in it. Religious symbolism, which needs to be interpreted.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
الكلمة الآن للأمين العام للجامعة العربية صاحب السعادة نبيل العربي.
سيادة الرئيس. Thank you, Mr. President.
اسمحوا لي أن أتقدم بالشكر ولأعضاء المجلس على دعوتي للمشاركة في هذا الاجتماع الهام.
I've got an article here entitled "Two Eminent Churchmen Agree."
Yes.
That there actually is, this is a shocker to a lot of people.
Yes.
That there are satanic practices going on at the Vatican. Could that be true?
Yes.
You want to say that? If I was a lawyer and you were on the witness chair, I'd say, would you say it?
It's out loud. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Now, when we say in the Vatican, it's at a certain level, and there's no doubt about it that there have been and still are practices that are formally venerating Lucifer, the prince of this world. There's no doubt about that.
The people who are hanging out at the United Nations are just simply, in a nutshell, one word, they're Luciferian. And I'm just sorry to report that, but that's just what it is. And so all of the people today who are promoting the United Nations and the concept of world government, whether they know it or whether they don't, whether they're doing it for money or whether they're doing it for power or for whatever reason they're doing it, they are promoting the philosophy and the religion of the Antichrist.
In 1986, Pope John Paul II gathered in Assisi, Italy, the leaders of the world's major religions to pray for peace. There were snake worshippers, fire worshippers, spiritists, animists, Buddhists, Muslims, Hindus, North American witch doctors. I watched in astonishment as they walked to the microphone to pray. The Pope said they were all praying to the same God, and that their prayers were creating a spiritual energy that was bringing about a new climate for peace.
Robert McGinnis with the Family Research Council says it appears the hidden agenda is to unite people under one religious organization so they will peacefully accept UN goals such as population control, abortion rights, and one world government.
A new world order.
This ethnic cleansing that you're hearing about is Christian cleansing throughout the world. And as the Antichrist becomes more powerful, you're just simply going to see more and more and more of it. Now here, we have a picture of John Paul II hand in hand with the communist 33rd degree Mason, Nelson Mandela. Most all the blacks think that Nelson Mandela is the great black hope to South Africa. Here he is shaking hands with the communist Mikhail Gorbachev, who's also a Mason. We are in the middle of spiritual warfare. But the point is that I think some of us at least are here because we realize that there's a real problem today. But to people who are on the outside looking in, this is not what they see. They're watching leadership of the Catholic Church meet with members of the Communist Party, like Togliatti in Italy. And they're asking themselves, how can this be? I think we're in the last days. How we got here is anybody's guess, I suppose. tell the truth.
It was possible for me from an early age to enter what is the world of the elite and what we know as the Illuminati. That's mainly the work for a pyramidal power that ends up in Jerusalem and Rome and that represents both the Vatican and the Chinese establishment. Together united to perform what they would like to be the New World Order.
The Blessed Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam declared, every prophet warned his people about the Antichrist, about Dajjal, the false Messiah. And the prophet Noah warned his people. But I say to you something that none ever said before me. He's listening now. He's blind in the right eye. It looks like a buzzing great. But your Lord is not one eye.
Lai di vrat? Napitkam? Ke an eshalak Yeshua Nazaret. Amar lana en ant Meshiach.
Ehuena. Takson barnash yete bayamin khayil. Yete ba'ananesh.
We were told about a divine promise which was communicated to the Israelite people, that Allah was going to send a prophet who would be known as Al-Masih, the Messiah, and who would rule the world with justice, confirmed by Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. He would be Hakimun Adil. He would rule the world with justice from the throne of Nabi Dawood alayhi salam, the Prophet David, and with a rule which would be eternal. The Israelite people understood that if the Messiah was to fulfill this divine promise, there were certain logical implications which followed. Number one, that he would have to liberate the Holy Land. Number two, that he would have to bring the believers back to the Holy Land to reclaim it as their own. Number three, that he would have to restore the holy state of Israel, founded by David and Solomon, Allah's blessings be upon them. And number four, that this holy state of Israel would have to become once again the ruling state in the world. And then the Messiah could rule the world from the throne of David alayhi salam, with a rule which would be eternal. After almost 100 years in Babylon, suddenly things began to happen and the Holy Land was liberated. The Persian Empire defeated Babylon, and the Israelite people were allowed to return to the Holy Land to reclaim it as their own and to restore the holy state of Israel. And the temple, or the masjid, built by Solomon, alayhi salam, was rebuilt. And so the Israelite people are now excited. Their excitement has reached fever pitch. The Messiah must be around the corner. The golden age is coming back. We're going to rule the world one more time. And sure enough, the Messiah came. But when the Messiah arrived, the son of Mary, while some of them accepted him, the establishment, the rabbis, the priests, rejected him. Why did they reject the Messiah? Answer, because Allah tested them. And because they were seeing with only one eye, they failed the test. They said, وَنَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ هَذَا, his mother had committed that enormous sin. And they said that this baby was a bastard. And then when they saw him die on the cross before their very eyes, he could not have been the Messiah. Why? He's dead. He's dead. And the Holy Land is under Roman occupation. He's dead. He never ruled the world from the throne of David alayhi salam. The golden age never came back, but he's dead. And so it is now confirmed beyond the shadow of a doubt. He could not have been the Messiah. What they did not know, and no one knew, for 600 years no one knew it, until the Quran came down, was that no, they did not kill him, no, they did not crucify him, but rather appearance and reality were completely opposite to each other. And Allah raised him, and one day he's coming back. When he comes back, he is going to rule the world. He will rule the world with justice, and he will rule the world from the holy state of Israel, built on the foundations of the religion of Abraham, alayhi salam. And that is Islam, and his rule will be eternal. But they did not know that. And so they're waiting for the Messiah to come. Prophet Muhammad, Allah's blessings be upon him, then informed that Allah had created a being, and Allah had committed to that being the mission of impersonating the Messiah, pretending that he is the Messiah. So he is the great pretender, and that he is known as Dajjal, Al-Masih al-Dajjal, Dajjal, the false Messiah or the Antichrist. Dajjal means one who deceives, and so the Antichrist has a PhD in deception. In everything connected with the Antichrist, appearance and reality are opposite to each other. If the Antichrist is to successfully impersonate the true Messiah, it follows that he also must attempt to rule the world from Jerusalem with what would appear to be eternal rule. Only then can he declare, I am the Messiah.
Jerusalem has been at the pinnacle of most of the events occurring in the world today. The forces of good and evil have been at play, trying with all their might to secure this land. But for what? What good will a piece of land do considering the bigger picture of things? It is only when you understand the concept of a Messiah does the picture become clear. The Illuminati have a Messiah they want to welcome to this earth. A Messiah they believe can only rule from the land of Jerusalem. A Messiah that they have been indoctrinating the world into believing in. A Messiah who will uphold the modern system we live in today. A Messiah who will attempt to rid the world of faith. A Messiah that we know as the Antichrist Dajjal.
not only has there been this curious relationship between Britain and the United States, that Britain and the Holy Land and Israel, which you cannot explain with normal tools of political analysis, but also with the United States and Israel. Which political scientist there is in the world today who can offer a rational explanation for the curious relationship that exists between the United States and Israel? And modern Western civilization has armed Israel. Transfer of technology, transfer of military technology, massive economic aid, massive financial aid, to the extent that Israel is now a superpower. And to the extent that Israel is now poised to take over from the United States as the ruling state in the world.
thousands of years, the holy lands of the Middle East have run with blood. Here, the scars of battle fought between three of the great religions of the world are etched into the earth. But the deepest wound was made by a war between Christian and Muslim, begun at the close of the 11th century and fought for 200 years. At stake, a tiny strip of land just a few hundred miles long, but with the greatest prize, Jerusalem.
Great industrial powers are locked in mortal combat. Millions are dying in the trenches in Europe, but the consequences of the war are felt around the globe. The old, semi-feudal Ottoman Turkish Empire, already shaken by nationalist revolution in 1908, is falling to pieces. And disastrously, it's allied to Germany. The British and French are out to make the most of the collapse of the Ottoman Empire in the Middle East, and the British are out to protect the roots to the jewel in the crown, the British Empire in India. The British will promise anything to anyone if they think it will help them win the war. In 1915, Sir Henry McMahon, the British High Commissioner in Cairo, wants to encourage an Arab revolt against the Ottoman Empire. He writes to Sharif Hussein, "As for the regions lying within the proposed frontiers, in which Great Britain is free to act without detriment to her ally France, I am authorised to give you the following pledges on behalf of the government of Great Britain, and to reply to your note as follows. Great Britain is prepared to recognise and uphold the independence of the Arabs in all the regions lying within the frontiers proposed by the Sharif of Mecca." A year later, T. Lawrence of Arabia, writes an intelligence note to his British commanders and encouraged them to take the same course. He says it will be beneficial to us because it marches with our immediate aims: the breakup of the Islamic bloc, the defeat and disruption of the Ottoman Empire, and because the states that Sharif Hussein would set up to succeed the Turks would be harmless to ourselves. The Arabs are even less stable than the Turks, and if properly handled, they would remain in a state of political mosaic, a tissue of small, jealous principalities incapable of cohesion.
When Britain left the Holy Land, she left like a thief in the dark. For the first time, for the only time in British history, there was no legal transfer of power from Britain to the successor state. In 1948, Britain acted as the midwife for the baby to be born. The European Jewish state of Israel. Another statement of the Prophet ﷺ, which is of crucial importance, it is also in Sahih Muslim. He said that when the Antichrist is released, he will live on earth for 40 days. 40 days. Yawmun kasana. One day like a year. Yawmun kashahr. One day like a month. Yawmun kajum'a. One day like a week. وَسَائِرُ أَيَّامِهِ كَأَيَّامِكُمْ. And all his days, implying all the rest of his days, would be like your days. When his day, now listen carefully, when his day is like our day, he would be in our dimension of time. And when he is in our dimension of time, then we can see him. At that time, of course, he would be, said the Prophet ﷺ, a Jew, a young man, powerfully built, with curly hair. Where would he be at that time? Of course, he would be in Jerusalem, ruling the world from Jerusalem, the way the world is now ruled from Washington. But where would he be when he's released on earth? In a day which would be like a year. And where would he be on earth? In a day which is like a month. And where would he be on earth in a day which is like a week? And now we get the story from the blessed lips of the Messenger of Allah. What is the story? Tamim al-Dari and some 30 or 40 of his companions went on board a ship. And then the storms came and blew the ship for a whole month before they arrived at an island. And when they got on shore, they got off the ship and they went on shore, they were confronted by a very hairy creature. Plenty hair. So much hair, you could hardly tell which side is head and which side is tail. And then this creature spoke and said, I am Jassasa, spy. Surah Al-Hujurat, وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا, do not spy. So this is an island with a lot of people who excel in spying. The answer, of course, is that when he's released on earth, he will be on that island. And from that island, he will launch his mission to liberate the Holy Land, to bring the Jews back to the Holy Land, to reclaim it as their own, to restore a state of Israel in the Holy Land, and get the Jews to believe that this is the holy Israel of David and Solomon, alayhi salam, and to cause that state of Israel to become the ruling state in the world. Which island is it? An amazing thing has happened. The British government did something which was incredibly strange and mysterious. In Britain, which is now the prince of the secular world, the secular world takes religion out of politics. And Britain is the prince of the secular world. Britain issues a declaration known as the Balfour Declaration in November 1917 that it is the intention of His Majesty's government to work for the establishment of a Jewish national home in the Holy Land. Do you hear that? The only thing stranger than that ever occurred in history was the day that the cow jumped over the moon. Why would a secular state, which leads the world of secular states, declare its intention to work for the establishment of a Jewish national home, meaning a Jewish state, in the Holy Land? 2 months later, this was October 1917, in December 1917, it is a British army led by General Allenby which defeats the Ottoman Islamic army and liberates the Holy Land. And when Allenby entered into Jerusalem, the British general declared, today the Crusades are over. Oh, but the Crusades were supposed to have been Christian wars. And you are now a secular state. You're not a Christian state, you're a secular state. How come a secular Britain is continuing a crusade started by the Pope 1,000 years before? That's strange. That is incredibly strange. Between 1918 and 1948, it is the island of Britain which ruled over the Holy Land. on a mandate conferred by the League of Nations. And during that period of time, Britain opened the doors for the Jews of Europe to enter into the Holy Land and to reclaim it as their own. But now, the United States takes over from Britain as the new ruling state in the world. In the same way that Britain had a mysterious relationship with the Holy Land and with the Jews, the United States now has that mysterious relationship with the Holy Land and with the Jews. The first country in the world to recognize the state of Israel is the United States of America. It's not by accident. We are located at that moment in time when a day which is like a month is about to end.
هذه سورة البخاري الذي قلنا هو حبر الماسونية الأعظم، وهو الذي أرسل هذا الخطاب وفيه الخطة التي يدبرون لها. يعني الذي نراه الآن هذا هو مدزيني الذي قلنا هو ماسوني من الدرجة 33، والخطاب طبعا أرسله بايك إلى مدزيني هذا، أرسله إليه سنة 1871. طبعا ننبه المشاهد أن في هذه السنة لم يكن طبعا إسرائيل أقيمت ولا اليهود هاجروا ولا وعد بلفور ولا هرزل ولا حركة صهيونية ولا أي شيء من هذا الكلام، إنما قال بايك لمدزيني في خطابه هذا أنه يجب على الماسونية والحركات السرية في العالم كله أن تتوحد في عملها من أجل أن تؤدي بالعالم إلى اندلاع 3 حروب. يعني فقال أن الحرب الأولى يجب أن تنتهي بإسقاط روسيا القيصرية وبتهجير اليهود في العالم إلى فلسطين، والحرب الثانية يكون المراد منها تحويل اليهود الذين هاجروا في المرحلة الأولى إلى دولة، والحرب الثالثة تكون بين هذه الدولة وبين جيرانها من العرب والمسلمين، وتنتهي بسيادة اليهود يعني على ما بين النيل والفرات، وسيادة الماسونية على العالم كله، وصحرها لشعوب العالم في بوتقتها الأخلاقية والقانونية والأزياء والذي اسمه العولمة التي نعيشها الآن. فطبعا الخطاب كما قلنا يعني مر علينا أكثر من 140 سنة واقترب من هذا، ففي تقريبا يعني مسار الأحداث في كل القرن العشرين.
The resolution of the DAC Committee for Palestine was adopted by 33 votes, 13 against, 10 abstentions.
Not later than May 16th next, a provisional Jewish government will commence to function in cooperation with the representatives of the United Nations then in Palestine.
إسرائيل منين لفرات عائلة إسرائيل منين لفرات.
When they colonize a part of the world, they do not leave, they do not decolonize until and unless they have put in place institutions which will ensure that that society will continue to be ruled by them by proxy, and in the process they seek to transform the rest of mankind into carbon copies of themselves. This never happened before in history. Understand what's happening here, then I've got peanuts in my head. When will I wake up?
فتولى السلطة النطيحة والمتردية وما أكل السبع.
نعم.
يعني حفالات الناس يحكمون العالم العربي الآن.
نسأل الله لهم الهداية. نسأل الله لهم الهداية.
نسأل الله لهم الهداية أو يأخذهم جميعا ويريحنا منهم.
نعم.
لا يوجد الآن حاكم عربي واحد يفهم الإسلام. لا يوجد حاكم عربي واحد يطبق الإسلام. لا يوجد حاكم عربي واحد يحكم في هذه القضية باسم الإسلام. لماذا الصمت؟ لماذا الجبن؟ لماذا الخوف؟ لماذا هذا الذل وهذا العار الذي تعيش فيه الأمة؟ خايفين على ايه؟ على كراسيهم؟
سبحان الله.
اين الجيوش العربية؟ اين الاسلحة العربية؟ لماذا اشترى السلاح؟ لقمع الشعوب واذلالها وحماية الكراسي والعروش والاستعراض في المهرجانات. هل هذا دور الجيوش في العالم العربي؟ هم يعلمون ان الكيان الصهيوني يستعد لهذه المعارك منذ عشرات السنين. لماذا لم يستعدوا؟ اين اموال هذه الشعوب؟ لماذا خذلونا في هذا الموقف وخذلوا الامه وظهروا بظهور الجبن والخوف والاستخباء والضعف والمهانه واذلوا الامه معهم؟
لا، ما ياخدوش من الاسلام الا واطيعوا واولي الامر. اطيعوا اولي الامر. طب ما تشوف اطيعوا الله الاول واطيعوا الرسول. اشمعنى دي؟ يعني اشمعنى دي اللي باينه قوي عندك؟ اشمعنى دي اللي باينه عندك؟ ليه؟ كل ما يجي يقول لك واولي الامر واطيعوا الامر. يا شيخ قول لي كمان افهم، الله لم يجعل لولي الامر طاعه مستقله. قال اطيعوا الله واطيعوا الرسول ولم يقل واطيعوا اولي الامر، بل قال واولي الامر من دون ان يكرر الطاعه، ليدل على ان طاعه ولي الامر من باطن طاعه الله وطاعته.
انت عايز واحد مجرم خاين عميل يجيب شيخ يساعده يكون شيخ محترم ولا شيخ منصر شخشخة ركبه؟ بمعنى لما واحد يكون خاين وعميل هيجيب شيخ محترم هيقول له قال الله وقال الرسول مش هيرضى وهيوقف له. انما يجيب شيخ شرابة خرج، شيخ شرابة خرج يروح على بيريز ويسلم عليه بايده الاثنين. ايه الخيبه دي؟ ايه الخيبه اللي انت بتعملها؟ ونقول له يقول لك وانا ما كنتش اعرف. انت ما تعرفش؟ طب فلسطين، طب الاخوه في فلسطين متحاصرين، هم متحاصرين؟ انت مش عارف ان هم متحاصرين؟ انت ايه بالظبط؟ ايه الكائن الحي الدقيق ده؟ ده ينفع يمثل الاسلام ولا يمثل المسلمون ده؟ ده عشان كده كل مجرم لازم يجيب له واحد من دول. يوم الناس لما تشوفه تستدفه المشايخ، تستدفه العلماء، يقول لك علماء مين؟ عشان كده انا بقول العمم اما قمم واما رمم.
النجم الشهداء يتواصل مع الشكور. المجرم هرب، المجرم هرب، بالعبد هرب، بالعبد هرب من الشعب التونسي، بالعبد هرب، بالعبد هرب، بالعبد هرب، بالعبد هرب، المجرم هرب، السيد هرب، السفاح هرب.
يا ريت يعني مناي اني ارجع البيت.
Hello, Tom. Would you like to play a game?
Rushing towards World War III by any measurement or definition.
That the Third World War will be fomented between Zionists and Islam.
Moment in time when one ruling state is about to give way to another. Then the state of Israel is about to replace the United States as the ruling state in the world. When Israel takes over from the United States with that big war which is about to take place, when Israel becomes the ruling state in the world, then the Jews will say, the golden age has come again. The prophecy is being fulfilled. But they're being...
Our game's just begun. Most people are so ungrateful to be alive. This game has a new design. Fear, suffering, death. You haven't seen anything yet. All of my work has been beating. Those who don't appreciate life do not deserve life. Leave me alone! Think of it all. Look! The games have just begun. Everybody deserves a chance.
The Messenger of Allah, Nabi Muhammad ﷺ, informed us of the release of Dajjal into the world during his lifetime. He went on to say that when Dajjal is released into the world, he would live on earth for 40 days. One day like a year, one day like a month, one day like a week, and the rest of his days like your days. The analysis conducted in his book is such that it argues that when Dajjal was in a day which is like a year, Britain was his headquarters. And when Dajjal moved to a day which is like a month, the United States of America became his headquarters. And finally when Dajjal is going to be in a day which is like a week, he comes back home to the Holy Land. He comes back home to the Holy Land.
If the Holy Land was liberated by a British army in November 1917, and that is just a chance military event, it happened by chance. If British rule over the Holy Land from 1918 to 1948 was just by chance. If the return of the Israelite people to the Holy Land 2,000 years after they had been expelled, and 2,000 years after they had been prohibited to return and they're back, to reclaim it as their own, if this is also by chance, if the birth of the State of Israel in 1948 in the Holy Land is also by chance, and if the growth of Israel to such a state of power that Israel appears to me, and of course only God doesn't make mistakes, Bishop, appears to me to be poised to take over from the United States very soon as the ruling state in the world. If all of these things can happen by chance, then Bishop, the cow can also jump over the moon.
From the start of the British monarchy at 900 AD until the ending of the First World War, Britain was the homeland of Dajjal, when one day was like a year. But with the US victory in World War I and World War II, Power was transferred from England to the United States of America, when one day was like a month. And on September 11th, 2001, power was transferred to Israel, when one day is like a week. And this is the phase we live in today. Since that date, the United States establishes its bases in over 10 countries across the Middle East, securing the rulership and safety of Israel as the final capital of the New World Order, the last phase, before the Antichrist Dajjal arrives.
Iran is today the world's leading state sponsor of terror. It seeks to intimidate its neighbors with ballistic missiles and bellicose rhetoric.
It's 1938, and Iran is Germany. It's 1938, and Iran is Germany, and it's racing to arm itself with atomic bombs. השינויים האלה לא נעשו 50 שנה, 50 שנה, חוץ מפעם אחת. אריאל שרון, זיכרונו לברכה. סליחה, ייבדל לחיים ארוכים. ייבדל לחיים ארוכים. אבל הוא עשה דבר גדול מאוד. ואנחנו רוצים לעשות את הדבר המקביל כדי להביא הרבה דירות למדינת ישראל לצעירים.
וכמו שאני מבין בכתובים, תהיה מלחמה גדולה מאוד שעוד לא הייתה כדוגמתה. והתוכניות של האויבים שלנו הן רציניות מאוד, ולא להכות אותנו בלבד, אלא להשמיד אותנו לחלוטין מעל פני האדמה. ואתם יודעים, כשתפתח מלחמת גוג ומגוג, אז 70 אומות העולם ילחמו בנו, כולל ארצות הברית. זה יהיה בגוג ומגוג. גוג ומגוג מלחמה של 7 שנים. 2/3 מהעולם ימותו. 4 מיליארד בני אדם. רק 1/3 יוותרו. והבאתי את השלישית באש, וצרפתים כצרופת הכסף, ובחנתים כבחון את הזהב. מי שרוצה לראות את כל הדברים כתובים, יקרא בספר יחזקאל.
We meet at a very dangerous moment in our history and in the history of the world, to address you on the subject of implications of a Zionist-Israeli attack on Iran, which now appears to be not only fairly certain, but also just around the corner. We say that Israel wants to attack Iran because Israel ultimately wants to rule the world. Because the Zionists want to rule the world. Because the Judeo-Christian Zionist European Alliance wants to deliver to the state of Israel the status of ruling state in the world.
فإن المتتبع إلى مصادر اليهود العقدية ومخططاتهم السياسية سرعان ما يكتشف أن إسرائيل الكبرى ليست هي بيت المقدس فقط ولا أرض الشام فحسب، إنها أكبر من ذلك، إنها الأرض من نهر النيل إلى نهر الفرات.
عندما يهتم وزير الدفاع الأمريكي بنيتا بالتقدير على مسامع صحفي أمريكي كبير بأن إسرائيل ستهاجم إيران لغاية حزيران حتى لا تتمكن إيران من إخفاء منشآتها النووية، لا يبقى أمامنا سوى أن نحاول الإنصات للمؤسسة السياسية في إسرائيل.
تقديرات دبلوماسي أمريكي صهيوني قريب من إسرائيل هو دينيس روس بيقول إنه خلال
9 شهور بالكتير. احنا فبراير، يبقى لما تحسب من فبراير شهر 2 حط كمان 9 يبقى شهر 11، يبقى نوفمبر بالكتير ممكن تكون الحرب في الصيف او على سبتمبر او على اكتوبر، اللي هي الحرب الاسرائيليه على ايران.
He said he reached over on his desk and picked up a piece of paper. He said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
They are trying to murder 4 billion people. They are trying to start World War III right now in Iran and in Syria.
ضرب إيران ده هدف استراتيجي لنا لإسرائيل. يعني إيران تضرب الأول، إسرائيل تخش تدمر نص الشرق الأوسط. الدب الروسي والتنين الصيني هيقولوا يهبوا فيضربهم. قال لك الصبح هتصحوا تلاقوا إسرائيل وجهت ضربة للعرب عنيفة جدا، بيقول كده بالحرف، سيتم فيها قتل أكبر عدد ممكن من العرب بشكل عام.
لازم نفكر
ده نص الشرق الأوسط.
لازم نفكر الناس إن كيسنجر يهودي. كويس. بعد ما إسرائيل تقوم الصبح روسيا والصين يلاقوها عمالة واكلة في العرب مولعاها نار، لغاية ما يتحركوا هتكون أمريكا بتوجه ليهم الضربة الجامدة قوي قوي، وتبقى في حكومة واحدة عالمية في العالم.
And that an attack on Iran is now going to inevitably lead to World War. That after Iran and after Pakistan and after the Arabs, the Zionists are going to turn on China and Russia, to make sure that China and Russia also bend down their knees and accept Israel, so that Israel can become the ruling state in the world. So Russia and China would know, today it's them, tomorrow it's us. And then I'm going to wait until tomorrow to recognize that. The minute Iran is attacked, they will recognize that the threshold has been crossed and that we are now moving inevitably towards nuclear war.
Israel.
C'est marqué dans les textes qu'à la fin des temps, il y aura une grande guerre dans le monde. On n'est pas prophète ni fils de prophète. C'est vrai que tout le monde sent un peu que c'est pour bientôt. On ne sait pas quand ça se passera. C'est marqué très clairement qu'il y aura une grande guerre entre l'Occident et l'Orient. Je rajouterai même un petit truc que j'ai pas... Seigneur de son. C'est vrai, j'aurais lui dit, dites-moi, vous dites que ma chère fille a ici à venir un jour. Qui vous êtes? Un petit peuple, sans rien. Même aujourd'hui, on a une armée, etc. Mais on est un petit peuple, on est combien, 6 millions par rapport à 1 milliard 300 millions d'ennemis qui nous entourent, le monde entier. Faut pas rêver, d'accord, avec la meilleure armée du monde, on n'est rien. Le Rav Sharp disait sans cesse, faut pas croire qu'on est ce qu'on n'est pas. On est des petits, très vulnérables, faut faire attention. Votre Messie viendra, comment il va faire la guerre? Comment il va montrer qu'il sera un grand? Tu veux que je te montre? Dis à tous tes seigneurs, dans 3 jours, on va faire un concours de combat de coq. Que chacun prépare bien son coq, on verra qui sera vainqueur. Moi je mènerai mon coq aussi, on verra. Je te montrerai comment je serai le vainqueur. Ah ouais? Ok, très bien. Le roi, on va des édits spéciaux à tous ces seigneurs, revenez dans 3 jours. Chacun avec son homme de combat le plus fort. Et on va voir maintenant qui va gagner. Après 3 jours, des trompettes, des drapeaux, tous les seigneurs qui sont là. Et le roi s'installe. Chaque seigneur amène son coq, des coqs flamboyants, des coqs cruels, forts, puissants. Et le Rav vient, il sort un coup de son sac comme ça, un petit coq, tout reluqué, tout tremblotant. Les seigneurs là se regardent en faisant des sourires, des coups d'œil comme ça, ils rigolent déjà. Bon, les trompettes sonnent, le roi ordonne que le combat commence. On jette les coqs dans l'arène. Et le combat commence, les coqs l'un sur l'autre, ils se griffent, ils se mordent, ils se griffent. Le petit coq du Rav, il reste que dans un petit coin comme ça, il fait rien du tout. Et à la fin du combat, tous les coqs sont morts, Et le petit coq qui sort comme ça, tout penaud, vivant.
When playing chess, the outcome of the game is usually determined in the early stages by the positions that are built up by each player even before the first pawn falls. These moves may seem innocuous to the untrained eye, but an experienced player can read the threats which grow and develop in each stage and can see the traps which are being laid. Right now, the nations of the world are organizing and positioning themselves financially, diplomatically, and militarily for a struggle which will alter the global power structure irrevocably. It would be impossible to understand the economic collapse which is slowly unfolding and the Great War which will almost certainly follow. There will be other justifications given, or even apparent attacks on our own soil. There will be the usual talk of fighting terrorism, spreading freedom, and liberating the people of this country or that. But don't be fooled. What's really at stake is the control over the world's monetary system and the global political power which will grow out of it. This is not a subject I enjoy thinking about, because as a father, I feel the implications of what I'm presenting here deep in my gut. I can understand why many might not want to look at what I'm about to say, and why they might resort to calling me a fearmonger. But consider this. If someone sees a hurricane approaching and does not tell you about it, are they really helping you? I want you to look at this, because how you react to these events will shape the future for generations to come. What's at stake is more than your life, more than your children's life. What's at stake is in fact an entire era of human history.
وحيث تتحدث الأنباء عن بلوغ الثورة الشعبية المنادية بإسقاط نظام حكم الرئيس بشار الأسد حد منازعته السيطرة على بعض مناطق سوريا، فإن الجديد الأهم في هذا الشأن هو الإعلان الموثق عن هجمات مسلحة صار يشنها المنشقون عن الجيش ضد من يوصفون بالشبيحة ورجال أمن السلطة.
وهذه المشاهد تصور الحال الذي قدمناه ووصفناه منذ قليل بقيام المتظاهرين بإلقاء الحجارة والزواجات على رجال الجيش والشرطة الذين يقومون بتأمين مبنى اتحاد الإذاعة والتلفزيون.
مع إشراقة شمس يوم جديد يستيقظ العراقيون على تفجيرات هازت العديد من المدن. بغداد وتحديدا حي الكرادة في قلب المدينة وحزام المنطقة الخضراء حيث مقر الحكومة والسفارة الأمريكية، سيارتان مفخختان تنفجران بالتزامن تستهدف إحداهما نقطة تفتيش للشرطة، بينما تستهدف الثانية حافلة كانت تقل طلاب مدرسة.
كأنها حمى المناورات في إيران، ما إن تهدأ في البحر جنوبا حتى تبدأ شرقا على البر. في زمن التصعيد يختار الحرس الثوري الحدود مع أفغانستان ساحة لمناوراته البرية.
اندلعت اشتباكات عنيفة في العاصمة الصومالية مقديشو بين حركة الشباب والقوات الحكومية المدعومة بقوات حزب السلام التابعة للاتحاد الإفريقي. وتشير التقارير إلى أن القوات الحكومية استخدمت الدبابات والمدفعية الثقيلة خلال هذه الاشتباكات.
وفيما أشار عشرات المصلين إلى أن رائحة الغاز تعبق في أجواء الأقصى وباحاته، شدد مدير أوقاف القدس الشيخ عزام الخطيب على أن هذا الوضع بات يتكرر كل أسبوع نتيجة إعلان المستوطنين المتكرر عن اقتحام المسجد الأقصى، ما ولد احتقانا كبيرا في الشارع الفلسطيني بسبب استفزازات المستوطنين.
أبدى مجلس الأمن الدولي قلقه تجاه الاشتباكات المتكررة بين السودان وجنوب السودان على الحدود، معتبرا أن هذه الاشتباكات تذكي التوترات والخلافات بشأن صادرات النفط والأراضي. وطالب المجلس البلدين بعدم القيام بأي عمل يقوض الأمن والاستقرار في البلد الآخر، بما في ذلك أي شكل مباشر أو غير مباشر من أشكال مساندة مجموعات مسلحة لدى الجانبين.
اقترح المؤتمر تحويل ليبيا إلى دولة فيدرالية، في حين تظاهر آلاف الأشخاص أمام محكمة بنغازي احتجاجا على عقد المؤتمر وتعبيرا عن رفضهم لما طرح فيه. ويرى مراقبون أن أي تحرك لمنح المزيد من الحكم الذاتي لشرق ليبيا قد يؤدي إلى انهيار حكومتها الانتقالية، مما يعني تفكك الدولة.
مع اشتعال النيران بنسخ من القرآن الكريم في إحدى محارق قاعدة عسكرية أمريكية شمال العاصمة الأفغانية كابول، اندلعت نيران أخرى ببقاع شتى بأفغانستان فجرتها تظاهرات لمواطنين أثارت الحادثة نخوة الغضب لمعتقداتهم ولكتابهم المقدس.
أعلن مسؤولون أمنيون في باكستان مقتل ما لا يقل عن 49 مسلحا في اشتباكات مع قوات الأمن وعمليات قصف بالطائرات المقاتلة بدأت أمس الأحد وتواصلت اليوم في منطقتين قبليتين شمال غربي باكستان.
بعد أيام على تولي عبد الله منصور هادي سلطاته كرئيس للبلاد، تبادلت وحدات متنافسة من الجيش اليمني إطلاق النار خارج مقر إقامة الرئيس حسب ما أفاد شهودا عيان، في وقت تجددت فيه الاحتجاجات في عدة مؤسسات عسكرية تطالب بإقالة قادة متهمين بالفساد.
أبقت شرطة مكافحة الشغب على وجود أكبر من المعتاد في المناطق التي يسكنها الشيعة في هذا الأسبوع لمنع تظاهرات الحاشدة في الذكرى السنوية الأولى لاحتجاجات مطالبة بالديمقراطية.
فبدي أقول مصلحتنا، وكنت وذكرت لك بأنه نحن خياراتنا إما الصلح مع السنة أو التحالف مع الإسرائيليين، مصلحتنا أو التحالف مع الإسرائيليين.
ورايا ان شاء الله.
سوريا يا شيخ.
نعم.
سوريا يا شيخ.
سوريا ان شاء الله ان شاء الله. شو انا هقول لك على حاجه، على قدر الكفر وتأصيل الكفر على قدر ما بيكون الابتلاء وبيكون الجهاد والتضحيه. سوريا دي يعني كل اللي بيحصل في العالم العربي ده كوم، وسوريا دي كوم تاني، لان بصراحه يعني الكفر متأصل والتعذيب يعني حرب لا تتخيلها. يعني ما شفناش ولا صاروخ انضرب على اليهود 40 سنه. تضرب صواريخ على شعبك يا مجرم، صواريخ لشعبه بالاف كل يوم، بالمئات كل يوم.
اذا ظل الشعب السوري على هذا النحو، هذا النظام لن يكف عن قتله، لن يكف عن قتلهم. هو لو عليه يخلص عليهم كلهم. المشكله ان لم نتحرك نحن، إن لم نتحرك نحن يتحرك الآخر، زي ما أنا وضحت في الموضوع. المشروع الإيراني لن يتوقف لأن إيران بتبحث عن نفوذها في الإقليم، والمشروع التركي لن يتوقف لأن تركيا بتبحث عن مشروعها في الإقليم، والمشروع الصهيوني لن يتوقف لأنه يبحث عن مشروعه في الإقليم، والمشروع الغربي لن يتوقف لأنه لا يريد أن يتخلى عن الإقليم. المشكلة بقى أين الإقليم؟ أين الإقليم؟
حديث رواه الإمام مسلم وغيره من حديث أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال صلى الله عليه وسلم: لا تقوم الساعة حتى ينزل الروم بالأعماق. أين الأعماق هذه؟ بالأعماق أو بدابق. الأعماق أو دابق قلب بلاد الشام. مع معنى هاتين الكلمتين النبويتين الأعماق ودابق. فوجدت في قواميس اللغة القديمة أن الأعماق مكان في حلب في سوريا، وأنطاكية أو أنطاكية مكان في تركيا.
من جديد يعود الحديث عن إنشاء ممرات إنسانية في سوريا، حديث فرضته الظروف الإنسانية القاسية التي تشهدها بشكل خاص مناطق التوتر مثل حمص وحما وإدلب ودرعا التي تتعرض لقصف عنيف. ولكن ما هي طبيعة تلك الممرات وما هي آلية فرضها وطرق تطبيقها؟ مبدأ إقامة ممرات إنسانية يتضمن إقامة طرق آمنة داخل مناطق الصراع أو القتال، الهدف منها توفير خط إمدادات لإيصال المساعدات الإنسانية اللازمة من مؤن أساسية ومواد طبية.
Huge expansion of the war in Libya with at least 12,000 frontline troops.
فيأتونكم تحت 80 غاية مع كل غاية 12,000.
Allow the escalation of this illegal war. What comes next? Though we already know. Drone attacks in Yemen and ground invasion of Syria.
لا تقوم الساعة حتى ينزل الروم بالأعماق.
Many of the troops we've talked to have been told that this will be the beginning of World War III and the complete occupation of North Africa, the Middle East.
الروم؟ من الروم؟ الروم أو بنو الأصفر امتدادهم الآن في العصر الحديث الأوروبيون والأمريكيون.
Our war on terror begins with Al-Qaeda, but it does not end it.
Je crois que la troisième guerre mondiale est déclarée. C'est une guerre de religion et il peut assassiner ce siècle nos enfants et les enfants de nos enfants et qu'il serait temps de se rendre compte.
Islam is an anti-Christ religion that intends through violence to conquer the world.
أيها السادة، امتداد المسلمين إلى مناطق نفوذ، روسيا تأخذ جانبا وأمريكا تأخذ جانبا.
إلى متى ضياعكم؟ إلى متى خنوعكم؟ إلى متى ذلكم؟ إلى متى قعودكم؟ إلى متى رقودكم؟ إلى متى هذا السبات عباد الله؟ والقرآن المجيد يقرأ آذان القلوب في الصباح وفي المساء وما من مجيب، والنبي يشكوكم إلى ربه وقال الرسول يا رب إن قوم اتخذوا هذا القرآن مهجورا.
هل الله مولانا يا أمة؟ هل الله مولانا يا أمة التوحيد؟ أم أن أمريكا هي مولانا؟ أم أن أوروبا هي مولانا؟ أمة التوحيد، أمة التوحيد، عودي إلى الله، عودي إلى الله، عودي إلى الله. الله مولانا ولا נכון, כל הכבוד.
When Israel becomes the ruling state in the world, then the Jews will say, the golden age has come again. The prophecy is being fulfilled, but they're being deceived in the grandest and most magnificent deception mankind has ever witnessed. No, this is not the golden age. You've been deceived by Al-Masih al-Dajjal.
Do you believe that men alone were able to carry out this global conspiracy of deception and power? When you study the history of the elite, their plans unfold almost completely according to plan. How? Why would these elite and occult societies dedicate their lives to a plan that won't materialize in their lifetime? Because the goals of this plan have not been planned out by mere men, but by a force far more sinister. Men have sold their soul for this plan in return for worldly rewards of wealth and power. But who is really benefiting? Shaitan, architect of the New World Order. It's time to connect all the pieces of the puzzle. This age of deception is all around us. The false messiah in Islam is called Dajjal. Al-A'war al-Dajjal, which literally translates to the one-eyed deceiver. Is it just coincidence that this title is given to this false messiah? Is it just coincidence that the elite have chosen the one eye as their symbol? He has already been ruling this earth for years through his Illuminati minions.
وقال الذين كفروا ربنا أرنا اللذين أضلانا من الجن والإنس نجعلهما تحت أقدامنا ليكونا من الأسفلين. من هما هذان؟ من هما هذان الرجلان اللذان هما السبب الرئيس في دخول مليارات، ليس ملايين، مليارات من الإنس والجن في جهنم؟ من هما هذان؟ قال المفسرون رحمهم الله من الجن إبليس، وهذا قول صحيح، ولكنهم قالوا من الإنس أنه قابيل بن آدم، وهذا قول لا يستقيم. قابيل بن آدم عنده جريمة واحدة ألا وهي القتل، فعلها ثم ندم، فبعث الله غرابا يبحث في الأرض ليريه كيف يواري سوءة أخيه، قال يا ويلتى أعجزت أن أكون مثل هذا الغراب فأواري سوءة أخي، فأصبح من النادمين. شريك إبليس في إغواء البشرية ليس قابيل، شريك إبليس في إغواء البشرية المسيح الدجال الذي يعيش على هذه الأرض منذ آلاف السنين، وكان بينه وبين إبليس ذلك التحالف الأبدي. وقال الذين كفروا ربنا أرنا اللذين أضلانا من الجن والإنس نجعلهما تحت أقدامنا ليكونا من الأسفلين. أتعرفون هذا الشعار؟ أتعرفونه؟ هذا شعار التحالف القديم تحالف إبليس مع ذلك الرجل منذ آلاف السنين، ذلك التحالف الذي أودى بمليارات من البشر إلى الكفر، إلى الغران وعدم معرفة من هو الله.
وعد الله الذين آمنوا منكم وعملوا الصالحات ليستخلفنهم في الأرض كما استخلف الذين من قبلهم وليمكنن لهم دينهم الذي ارتضى لهم وليبدلنهم من بعد خوفهم أمنا.
قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: تكون النبوة فيكم ما شاء الله أن تكون، ثم يرفعها إذا شاء أن يرفعها، ثم تكون خلافة على منهاج النبوة فتكون ما شاء الله أن تكون، ثم يرفعها إذا شاء الله أن يرفعها، ثم تكون ملكا عاضا فيكون ما شاء الله أن يكون، ثم يرفعها إذا شاء أن يرفعها، ثم تكون ملكا جبرية فتكون ما شاء الله أن تكون، ثم يرفعها إذا شاء أن يرفعها، ثم تكون خلافة على منهاج النبوة. ثم سكت.
يجي واحد يقول لك: وهل نستطيع أن نعيد الخلافة؟ أخذ السؤال. خلافة سقطت وانت بتعتبر هذا داء من أشد الداءات عضال. هل نستطيع أن نعيدها؟ وكيف؟ طبعا. تعالي في الخلافة اللي عرضك أسهل 100 مرة مما كانت عليه زمان سهل.
ثم يرفعها الله إذا شاء أن يرفعها، ثم تكون خلافة على منهاج النبوة.
ثم ماذا بعد الحكم الجبري يا رسول الله؟ ثم تكون خلافة راشدة على نهج النبوة. ثم سكت صلى الله عليه وسلم.
من حديث أبي حوالة الأزدي أن الحبيب النبي وضع يده يوما على رأس أبي حوالة وقال: يا ابن حوالة، اسمع، إذا رأيت الخلافة قد نزلت الأرض المقدسة. الله 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 الله، خلاص هتنزل، ورب الكعبة ستنزل الخلافة الأرض المقدسة.
وقت خروجه عندما طبعا تكثر الفتن ويقتتل 3 من أولاد الخلفاء على كنز الكعبة كلهم يريد الاستيلاء عليه ولا يكون لواحد منهم.
طبعا في هذه الأثناء تكون الأرض قد امتلأت بالظلم. والجور والعدوان. في مثل هذه الأيام ومثل هذه الأوقات يبعث الله رجلا في الأرض. يعني بعد ما امتلأ الظلم في الأرض كل مكان ظلم يصير، ظلم على مستوى العالم، ظلم الشعوب، ظلم الناس، ظلم الأطفال. يبعث الله هذا الرجل. هذا الرجل في البداية ما كان راضي إن يقود الناس، لكن يلزم إلزاما. قوم خلاص، ما في أحد يقود الأمة، صارت أمة بلا قائد، صارت أمة تريد من يقودها إلى النصر وإلى العزة.
When a day which is like a week has come to an end, and we will know that because the water in the Sea of Galilee would have dried. That is the time when these events are now going to take place. The advent of Imam al-Mahdi.
For centuries, the Sea of Galilee has inspired believers the world over. The waters the Bible tells us Jesus walked on, the shores where he performed his miracles, a place of beauty, religion and legend, but today on the brink of disaster.
The water should be above our head, and the tragedy is that we don't need to be Jesus Christ anymore to walk here on the Sea of Galilee.
Environmentalist Guidon Bromberg and I could walk the floor of the lake because its waters have retreated hundreds of yards.
When the Sea of Galilee dries up, that's the time when Israel will no longer rule the world. I love this hadith. Guess why? Because George Bush could watch the Sea of Galilee going down. And Tony, what's his name? Yes. And Ariel, what's his name? Sharon. Yeah. And the Jews? They can watch the Sea of Galilee going down and drying up. And they can realize that the moment is coming. Goodbye to bad rubbish.